Hello and welcome back to the YouTube channel. My name is Jackie. Today I wanted to talk about a actually personal story of something that I went through. For years and years, I struggled to get toned. That used to be one of my ultimate goals was I wanted to get toned. I wanted that like lean, long fitness cover magazine look. And I struggled with it constantly. So I want to tell you about the mistakes that I made and how I actually fixed them so that I could get the results that I was looking for. As a personal trainer, I hear the phrase, I want to get toned pretty much on the daily. That's usually the ultimate goal that most women have when they come to work with me. And it was my number one goal when I very first started as well. So when we think of the word toned, we think about that fitness magazine cover. Or if you saw Taylor Swift at the Grammys, her pictures of her at the Grammys this past weekend are everywhere. And honestly, she always looks amazing, but like she looked incredible. And I keep seeing posts online about like, wow, Taylor Swift at the Grammys is inspiring me to start running or start doing yoga. But I don't really feel like a lot of people understand what being toned actually means. So the truth is, being toned or getting that toned look is basically just another way of saying that you want to gain muscle mass and lose body fat to show off that muscle mass. Oftentimes online, you'll hear trainers and people in the fitness industry talking about how toning doesn't exist. And they are correct. Toning isn't really a thing. There's no such thing as a toning exercise. Or you'll hear people also talk about lean muscle. I want to put on lean muscle so I can tone, which also isn't really a thing. There's no such thing as specifically lean muscle and specifically regular muscle. So when fitness professionals talk about how there is no such thing as toning, there's no such thing as gaining lean muscle mass, they are correct, 100% correct. Toning just basically means that you want to gain muscle and lose a little bit of body fat, and there's no such thing as gaining only lean muscle. You're just gaining muscle mass. Sometimes as trainers, though, we forget that not everybody works in the fitness industry, and sometimes it's better to just use the verbiage that our clients and our audiences are using. So you will still hear me, for example, talk about toning in my social media and stuff, because then people understand what I'm talking about and that relates to their goals that they're looking for. Moving on from the verbiage talk, I struggled for years to get toned. That was my ultimate goal, and what I wanted was to have like a lean toned body. And I didn't really understand what that actually meant. So for years, I made mistakes with my workouts and my training and my nutrition that was actually doing the exact opposite of the effects that I was looking for. These are often also small mistakes that a lot of my clients are doing before they start working with me, and they'll come to me struggling to see these results. And then we make these few changes, and what do you know? They start seeing the results that they're looking for. So first things first, the number one thing that was holding me back from seeing the results that I was looking for is that I was only doing cardio and I wasn't doing strength training. As I mentioned before, to achieve that lean toned look, you need to gain muscle mass, which means that you need to strength train. Again, there's no such thing as only strength training to have lean muscle. It's just muscle. It's just regular old muscle. A lot of people think that they need to just do cardio and run on the treadmill, and I'm just going to run and I'm going to do yoga and that's going to get me toned. Don't get me wrong, cardio has its place. Cardio is great for your lung health and your heart health. It's great for overall conditioning, the mental health benefits. There's a lot of great benefits with cardio, but it does not build muscle, and it's not going to help you achieve that lean toned look that strength training will. That being said, it's not cardio or strength training. They're best done together to get the full benefits of one another. So no, adding in strength training a few times a week is not going to turn you into a bodybuilder or a She-Hulk. Nobody has ever accidentally became a bodybuilder by casually lifting weights a few times a week. Trust me, that requires a lot more time and attention and specific programming than you realize. That would basically be the equivalent of being worried that you're going to become a NASCAR driver just because you got your driver's license. It is not the same thing. So what did I do to fix this is I actually started strength training. Who knew? I started with adding strength training into my routine about 3 to 5 times a week and focusing on a progressive overload. So what that means is basically you're just going to be trying to lift more weights or do more repetitions and get stronger over time so that you're continually challenging your muscles so that they have to repair and grow. A lot of people get nervous about lifting heavy when they first start, which I understand. A lot of my clients are super nervous about lifting heavy, and even I was that person too. I was worried about lifting heavy and that it would make me bulky and everything like that. But if you're really, truly wanting to get that toned look, the defined arms, the defined legs and core, you need to lift some heavy shit. We're not starting with lifting crazy heavy right off the bat. That will lead to an injury. Take some time in the gym to get yourself familiar with the movements, the workouts, and maybe get some help with the form, either from a coach or an in-person trainer, to make sure that you're comfortable with everything before you start really pushing the weights. Then from there on, you're basically going to be repeating the same 12 exercises over and over until you die, but with amazing results. So not only will strength training help you gain that muscle mass that you need to achieve that toned look, but there's also so many other health benefits of strength training, including better aging, joint health, bone health, decreased risk of injuries and falls, heart health, and just many more health benefits. So if you're not strength training, regardless of your goals, you need to start strength training. Adding strength training to your routine will also help you burn more calories with the more muscle mass that you get. It's a small amount. For every pound of muscle that you put on, you burn about an extra 6 calories a day. But when you add it up over time, especially once you start adding 10 plus pounds of muscle into your body. So that was my number one mistake. I was wanting to get toned. I was spending way too much time on the treadmill and running and stuff, which was ridiculous because I hate running. I'm not a runner, but I always felt like I had to run. But I was truly missing the biggest piece of the puzzle, which was strength training. And once I started adding strength training to my routine, made a huge difference in my results. Number two, the other big mistake that I made when I was struggling to get toned was I was outrunning a bad diet. The bold-faced truth is I tried to eat clean for the longest time, and I would do ridiculous, stupid shit. I would do fad diets, I did detoxes, cleanses, shakes, like all of these kinds of weird, sketchy shit to help myself get toned. But I didn't actually address a lot of the root issues when it came to my nutrition, which was I was not eating enough vegetables and fruits. I was not eating enough protein, and I wasn't in a calorie deficit to lose body fat. A lot of my clients will come to me and they'll talk to me about how they're eating clean. I eat clean. I eat clean. I hear those words all the fucking time. But the truth of it is, eating clean is not enough to help you lose body fat. To achieve that toned look, you need to gain muscle mass, all the while you're also losing body fat so that muscle mass can show through. That requires a calorie deficit, meaning that you are intaking fewer calories than your body burns. Now, there are 100 different things that can affect the calorie deficit and what that looks like for each individual person. And there's a lot of factors, including hormonal factors, that can affect how hard or how easy it is for somebody to be in a calorie deficit. I feel like I need to say that because there's a lot of misconceptions out there about it. So yes, while eating healthy and focusing on the quality of foods that you're eating is important, if at the end of the day you're eating too many calories, you're not going to get that toned look that you are wanting. You do need to be in a calorie deficit to lose a little bit of body fat while also eating sufficient protein to maintain the muscle mass that you're wanting to build. So this means that you are not starving yourself. Depending on where you're at and where you're starting from, that does affect how many calories you're eating. If you're somebody that's already starting pretty lean and you're just wanting to gain a little bit of muscle mass, trim up a bit of body fat, you're probably okay to honestly hang out around maintenance and do what we call a slow body recomposition, where you just slowly gain muscle mass and slowly lose body fat at the same time. And you can generally do that right around maintenance calories and strength training. If you have significant amounts of body fat to lose, then you want to concentrate more so on that calorie deficit while still eating sufficient protein and, of course, adding strength training to your routine. The common misconception here is that people think calorie deficit and they automatically go to, I need to starve myself, which is the furthest thing away from the truth and will actually affect your results. And I fell into this trap just as much as anybody else. What you want to focus on is trying to eat as many calories as you possibly can while still seeing results. And this is where, yes, your weight loss will probably be a little bit slower versus just cutting calories down to 1,000 calories a day and then losing weight that way. But the process is going to be much more enjoyable and you're going to maintain and keep as much muscle mass as possible. Let's talk protein intake because that is the super important piece of the puzzle. Protein intake is really important, not just for maintaining and building that muscle mass. And a high protein diet also helps you stay in a calorie deficit. This is because protein has a high thermic effect of food. So basically, while your body is digesting and utilizing protein, it is burning more calories versus when it digests and utilizes fats and carbohydrates. This increasing your overall daily calorie burn, which can make being in a calorie deficit easier and not having to cut out so much food from your diet. Many people find that tracking their food intake in some way, shape, or form is helpful, even something like a food diary or just focusing on a meal structure throughout the day. The other thing to keep in mind, besides protein and besides calories, is of course fiber intake. Fiber intake, regardless of your goals, is important. Did you know that there are increasing colon cancer rates among millennials, and they are attributing a lot of it to low fiber intake? I've talked about this in many of my videos and podcasts, so I preach the importance of fiber every day. So making sure that you are getting in a good amount of high fiber foods such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, lentils, all those kinds of foods throughout the day. Lastly, the biggest mistake that I made when I was struggling to get toned, and the biggest mistake that I see my clients making, is consistency. I was the queen of all or nothing, yo-yo, I'm either on or off, or I'm no in between. I said that phrase every week, I feel like, for years. I would go to the gym for 2 weeks and then I wouldn't show my face there for 3 weeks. I would do a diet for 2 weeks and then I would fall off of it harder than the town drunk, and then it would just spiral out of control from there. I would be super rigid Monday to Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday, balls to the wall with chicken, pizza, wings, beer. Just could not stay consistent for the life of me. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I never saw results, was because I wasn't consistent long enough to actually fucking see results happen. This, unfortunately, is the biggest piece of the puzzle that most people are missing. And it's the biggest thing that people struggle with, because staying consistent for a long period of time is difficult. It's not easy. However, it is the most important thing that people need to factor in for seeing long-term results. So when I say consistency, I'm not talking about being perfect. I fell into that perfectionist mindset for the longest time, and I felt like if I couldn't be perfect, what was the point of even trying? Which, in all honesty, is a stupid mindset. It's dumb. You're better than that. We all know that it's better to be 80% consistent for a long period of time than trying to be 100% consistent for 2 weeks at a time and not being able to stick to anything. It may seem boring, but consistency is truly where the magic happens. And I can tell you, with being consistent with my own health and fitness over the last 10 years, it's been life-changing. A lot of people think that they need to just be on track until they've reached their end goal, and then they can go back to doing whatever it was before. And that is not going to get you long-term results. That only gets you short-term results, and then you will be left 6 months later wondering where your results went and why you're basically back to the starting point that you were before. So focusing on consistency goals for me was the biggest thing. Once I figured out what actually consistency looked like, the biggest thing that I did was I started tracking my consistency on a calendar. Nothing fancy. I literally made myself a little Excel sheet calendar. The days that I hit my goal, I would mark it off. The days I didn't, I would circle it. And then at the end of the month, I would calculate how many days I was on track versus how many days I was off. Now, again, I was aiming for 80% consistency, not 100%, knowing that I would have some off days, but I wanted the majority of the time to be on days. For me, that was a huge game changer, because it actually showed me the real data as to how consistent I was actually being versus how consistent I thought I was being in my mind. And this is something that I implement with my clients to this day, is tracking their consistency. And every single time they do it for a month, it is eye-opening for my clients to be like, oh, I thought in my mind that I was being super consistent with my goals, but in reality, the data is much different. So there you have it, the 3 big mistakes that I made. I focused way too much on cardio, trying to outrun a bad diet and not pay any attention to my nutrition. And I just plain old wasn't consistent enough. Once I fixed those things and I put in the work for the long term, my results changed dramatically. So thank you for watching. I hope that you found this video helpful. Be sure to like and comment below what you found was the most helpful part of the video. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, and you can also follow me on Instagram if you haven't already. Thanks so much, and I will chat with you later.